This dad guitar shop lesson is for my friend Phil out in sunny Brisbane. Sat on his porch in the mornings trying to learn this Van Morrison song. So we'll get straight into it. The double stop melody at the beginning that you can hear, the very famous one, the way I play it is on the top two strings, E and the B string, and I use my fingers. I notice you're using a plectrum and one finger. I mean, the plectrum's fine, I'm pretty sure the record is with a plectrum, but I like using my fingers for this, just a bit cleaner. And I'm sorry to say, there's no real shortcut to that. That is just a lot of practice. It's quite difficult to because it covers most of the fretboard. It's quite difficult to get that fluent. I would say, I mean, if you're using a plectrum, all downstrokes. And really slow it down. So all I can say is play it slow until you get it just right. There's no real, like I say, shortcut to playing that better. That's all I can think of for that. In terms of strumming the song, again, I noticed you're using a plectrum. I'm not a fan of a plectrum on an acoustic guitar. I know this isn't an acoustic, but it's still wooden and it's got frets and stuff. I'm not a fan of a plectrumed acoustic. It sounds a bit like a guy at a party, you know, he's got one in his pocket. And I've just never been a fan of that. So if you're going to use your hands, what I suggest is like you're holding an egg in this hand, not too tight and not open like you're going to be flamencoing the guitar, just nice and loose on this whole arm, and your downstrokes with the backs of your fingernails, upstrokes with your thumb, making like an arch across the guitar. Imagine like an arch, a solid arch. You rest your bicep on here. And this should be fluid, you know, there should be no real rigidity in the wrist, like you're playing squash or flicking someone with a towel. You want to keep that loose. Should not be solid. When I'm picking, like I'm more inclined to be rigid. Again, you shouldn't be, but I rest sort of more of the forearm and the palm on here, and I am a bit more rigid. But for a strumming pattern, for sure, should be loose, I think. And into that progression, what I have noticed you were doing in the videos you sent to me of you playing it, were you seem to be focused on playing a chord every beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fine, but it does sound a bit like you're counting and a bit rigid. You want to loosen that up a bit. And I think a step towards doing that is including a very definite and in your counting, so that this won't sound natural to begin with, but I think it will be a good step towards what we need to get to, which is like a bouncy rhythm. So what I mean by an and is, you want to be going down, up, down, up, down, up, with an and on the ups. So you're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 like that. And I think if you practice that slow enough, you'll progress onto what needs to be like a more fluid and rhythmic strumming pattern with the gaps in it that you need to make it bounce. But at the moment, with the more rigid 1, 2, 3, 4, it just feels a bit unnatural. So what I mean by that bounce is, if I think back to my function band days, I would have probably played, if I was just playing acoustic or unaccompanied or anything like that, I'd probably be picking out the root note with my thumb. Which is ideal. Or just open strumming. See, there's more of a bounce. And if I do that very slowly, what's happening there is you're doing 2 downs before you start the pattern. I'm not going to give you a count for this. I don't think it's important that you think in the number count. This should be more of a feeling. And the way to get this, once you're up to speed on the chords, play along with the record and then get your strumming feeling like the record is feeling. don't try and count it, because there is a count. You could write it, but I think it will only get in the way of what you want to do. So the two downs, I mean, so that's the strumming pattern. It's like two downs, two ups, and then a bit more. So yeah, don't get too caught up on it. More you want to get that, like I say again, the bounce. And it's about hitting that chord on the one of the chord change. One, 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 one. And that enables you to get the little gaps you need to do the little things that make the song sound like Brown Eyed Girl, like the little step down into the D, into the E, sorry, the E minor. Up the end, but yes, you heard the step down. That's going from the G, F sharp, E minor. If you don't play with that bounce, it's very difficult to get that little step down in to make it sound like the song, or to give it that. It's just a little signature. I doubt it's the same. I doubt I'm doing exactly the same thing, but the little signature, it implies that, and everyone recognises that part of the song. So that's what you need to get. If you're strumming like this. A bit mechanical, and the same if once you step up to the, it will sound better, but again it will sound quite mechanical going through the motions like that. So I think first concentrate on getting your chord changes on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 play along with the song so you get it up to speed and you get your changes in the right place. Once that's fluent, then start trying to bounce along with the song. And it does help to move to do that. I would suggest exactly the same thing with trying to sing along. That was your next question. So how do you put the words in the gaps? And the difficult thing with this song is Van doesn't really, he kind of talks the words in his amazing voice. You know, talking is it's a bit of a criticism, but I mean it in the best way. He doesn't necessarily follow a rhythmic pattern. I mean, he's not playing and singing it at the same time. He's waiting to play the sax in a minute. So he doesn't need to be too concerned about getting the words in the gaps of the strumming. So I wouldn't be too concerned with that either. Again, the way I do this, the first step I take is to sing the chord on the first change of the chord. So when the chord changes, I sing the name of the chord. So I'll say G 2 3 4 C 2 3 4 G 2 3 4 and D 2 3 4. I mean, I've got no particular voice, but just try and get you don't even need to get your melody, just try and sing the G's in tune and the C's in tune-ish and the D's in tune, and then that'll get your mouth working and your brain thinking that way. As you change chord, you change pitch, and you move your mouth, and all of those things will start falling into place. And it's quite simple, you haven't got to worry too much about words. And after that, once you've got those in, I would bring the words up on a screen or on a piece of paper in front of you, and I'd play the song, and I would start reading the words as the song's playing, and I would start introducing the chords. So I would start playing the chords along with the song, reading the words as they come up. I'm going to get them wrong most of the time. Like, I'm going to get them in the wrong place. I'm going to get them in the wrong melody. I'm going to get them out of pitch. Like, doesn't matter. You've just got to get your chord changes on the one and try and hit the next line roughly when he hits the next line, and it will come into play. It will fall into place. But getting your mind, body, mouth, hand all separated and then coming back together is probably one of the hardest things to explain. It's more of a, like the bounce on the strumming, it's a feeling more than an explanation. And the more you think about 1, 2, 3, 4, the less you're going to think about, the less you're going to feel it, the less you're going to put those things into practice. It's a little tool, like the counting will enable you to roughly see where you are, but I find it will just get in the way. I think it'd be more useful if you just take it in stages and then, for instance, start singing the chord names and introduce it that way, slowly. Try not to think too much about the count. I hope that helps. Anyway, enjoy the sun, enjoy Brisbane, enjoy the better coffee.